impression, but let's just say I did. It is
Okay.
recording now. And yeah, if we
Great.
went to the control panel, we go under community details, we'll find your preview site. So one of the things that I like folks to do when they're testing concepts or whatever the case may be is it's kind of one of two things. So you can either create yourself a depermissioned area in the site manager where you can just kind of horse around and do your stuff. No one has permission to it, that sort of thing. And you're working within the real site at the real time. Some people get a little nervous about that just simply because they think, well, what if I mess with something and I end up, so it sometimes can influence how people will play with the site. The preview address, the preview site is a copy of your site. It's refreshed the week before we do a product release. So we did a product release last night. Last Thursday, we refreshed your preview site. So the thing to keep in mind with your preview site is if you're doing any progressive work in it, be really aware of what our refresh days are, because that effectively wipes out your site and replaces it with a copy of your existing site, is basically the context. So I have already opened your preview site
Oh,
and it is right
how do
here.
Greg, we can't
we?
hear you.
You can't hear me.
I can hear you.
I can.
Oh,
I can
okay.
hear 'em. But I'm curious, before you go on,
Oh,
how
I
do
can't
we
hear anybody, I
know?
guess.
Oh,
Oh,
how do we know when you're gonna do the product releases?
good question. So we have our customer care site here. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, we have our customer care site here. And under support, we have the product zone. And our release dates are all right here.
Okay.
So yeah, they're all set up. We have them configured well in advance. Now I say that, and we don't have any events for the next 6 months, but they are working on getting the calendar loaded for 2020, end of 2024, 2025. But target release to preview is when that is going to happen, and then target release to production is usually about 6 or 7 days afterwards. Once we've determined that the preview is basically our testing in real live environments to make sure everything works. So. Yeah, so you can check that there, and that's a great segue into the preview site, which is, of course, where we can find what your site looked like a little while back. Now, the first thing that people kind of look at is they look at the slideshow and they go, well, the slideshow stories aren't here. Why not? They are. Images don't translate well across multiple sites sometimes. So depending on the image, depending on where it's being housed and how it's supported, you will get some blanks and things like that where you'll go, oh, that's kind of off-putting. But trust me, the stories are there, and beyond that, it's just really good to have. This is a full version of your environment. You'll always know because up here in the upper right-hand corner, we've got preview of CI, and that just simply means it's a preview of your customer environment, and you can work in here and not have to worry about doing anything that would corrupt your existing site. Carly still can't hear us. That's so weird, Carly. I'm not sure what to tell you. Very odd.
It does sound good here, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I might suggest, Carly, is under Mike. Well, Carly can't hear me. Under Mike, I would check the mic settings. I know Teams doesn't do it to me too often, but Slack occasionally decides it wants to listen to me through my webcam for whatever reason. So that might be the thing. So maybe we can tell Carly that, and hopefully we can get her back in the game here. Yeah, so the preview site, and just keep in mind with the preview site, the one thing you have to remember is there's two things actually. We have to make sure that you are a member of a role that can access the preview site. Not all your members can do this. It's designed to be a site that's kind of there for administrators. And number two, you log into the preview site with your Igloo credentials. So do you folks use single sign-on presently? Like your password resets like once every 30 days, 90 days, something like that, and it's not the password you log into Igloo with. Am I correct in that? Yeah,
Right.
okay. So yeah, so your Igloo credentials are the first login and password you put into Igloo. That's the difference with that. You're not using your SSO credentials. So the way to fix that is if you go to your member profile in the digital workplace, you can go to your member profile or have someone do it for you and do reset password. Reset password will allow you to reset the password for your Igloo instance without affecting your SSO. So you don't have to worry about that. So if you have forgotten about it, it is something to keep in mind moving forward that you can do that. Carly, how'd we do? Any luck? I guess not, because she fell
Oh.
off again.
Hmm.
Okay.
Oh.
um, what do we want to do? Do we want to soldier on ahead? We are recording, so, or thoughts?
I I think keep going.
Keep going? Okay.
Brenda,
All
you're
right.
on mute. What did you say?
Yeah, I would say keep going since we're recording.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. Works for me. Okay, so then the next thing I wanted to look at, so the preview site, we're clear on that. The next thing I wanted to look at is just to talk about the content types. And I think you know what a lot of the content types are for, but we'll go into the site manager and just talk about these for a second. And Carly's back. Can you hear us now? Can you hear us now?
You're
No.
on mute.
N
Carly, you're on mute.
no,
No.
still nothing. Oh my. All right. Okay. So yeah, I'm not sure what to do, Carly. If you try under your mic settings, that's the only thing I can think of. She's
Oh,
typing.
you can hear.
Oh,
We
she
can't
can
hear you
hear.
because you're on mute.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Well, as long as she can hear. Perfect. Okay, that's
Okay.
good. Welcome back. Yeah, so basically looking at the content types, I'll just use add as a reference here. So the items that I put all of our different content types within the digital workplace on here. But the first one I talked about in the agenda was the idea of a blog versus a microblog. So are you folks using microblogs right now? I didn't really see any instances of them.
No, I don't
Okay,
think
so we're
so.
not. Was there any, is there a particular reason you're not, or is it just that you couldn't think of a use case for them, or was there a confusion maybe between blogs and microblogs?
I guess I don't know what the difference is.
Great.
I don't know
Okay.
about Carly, but
That was, I shouldn't say great, but that's the tack I was hoping we would take. So great for me. So basically what we're looking at is blogs, and we'll jump back out to your, uh, we'll jump back out here because these are all blogs that you're writing. These are blogs. Blogs are designed to be more referenceable. So if you're writing longer form content, if you're writing stuff that needs a summary, if you're writing stuff that you want to look up at some point again and have as kind of a living entity that is going to be archived likely at some point, but beyond that, you're going to have this here for reference for a bit. You've got something that's fairly lengthy to say. There's structure. There's a sense of not necessarily formality behind it, but certainly the idea of structure. That's what a blog is for. Pardon me. A microblog is really designed, and I'll show you one real quick. A microblog is designed to be more social, but at the same time just very transactional. So this right in the center of the screen here, the water cooler as I call it, is an example of a microblog. And a microblog is just for employees to knock in quick thoughts to each other. Maybe they're doing things like what's represented here. In the case I'm saying, like our engagement squad is planning a trip to a roller coaster park. How cool is that? That sort of thing. We're not doing anything that really needs to be referenced at a later stage in the game. We're doing things that are very transactional, kind of invite a quick call and response, and that can be shared across multiple channels. One thing with
so
microblogs, yeah, go
let
ahead,
me ask
Brenda.
you a quick question.
Hmm.
So at various times we've talked about doing like sort of like a ticker feed, like a Twitter type of thing,
Hmm.
for like smaller little posts. Is this what we would use to do something like that?
Microblogs are perfect for that sort of thing. So
Okay.
certainly a couple of instances I've seen that picker sort of post that you've seen, the idea of chat within a team room or a space, that sort of thing, where a team is maybe just engaging with thoughts on their own, that sort of thing. And the other one that's really good is if you've ever used or seen any of our birthday or anniversary widgets, one of the things that they lack is the capability to say, hey, happy birthday, Carly. Great work anniversary there, Kate, that sort of thing. Congratulations on 7 years. We don't have that capability. So a lot of people have put a microblog beside those, and then that way you can use that to congratulate the person when you've had that. So you just see share a thought here, and it opens up a scaled down version of our WYSIWYG editor, and you can go ahead and just create some of those more transactional in the moment posts there. That's kind of what that's for as far as things go. So again, blogs really being more for more formalized communications. I mean, you're using them for, employee news and featured news and things like that. Not all of this is incredibly business focused, but at the same time, this is stuff that you want to be able to search more readily. This is stuff that you really want to draw attention to as opposed to have vanish in a feed very, very quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Any questions on blogs versus microblogs? Does anything come to mind there? Okay, cool.
Not at the moment.
All right. The next one we have is forums.
I'm back.
All right,
Good.
Carly's back. This is good.
Sorry. I
No,
think it's my headphones.
okay.
They must have not charged, and so they will die out again. But that's
Okay.
yeah.
Well, you're with us, and that's what's
So
important.
I'm here for right
Okay.
now.
Cool. So forums. Are you folks familiar with forums, the content element forums? If I said that to you, what would you say?
I have not used a forum.
Have not used a forum.
It's yeah. I mean, I haven't used it either, but I think it's like where you could ask questions
Yes, exactly.
and
that's
monitor.
Yep. And that's what forums are designed to be. So forums are designed to be more things like frequently asked questions and things like that. So I've got kind of a blasé example here. Actually, it's not blasé. It's classifieds. This is a good one. So forums can be used in a couple of contexts. One of the best is frequently asked questions. We use it a lot in, for example, Igloo customer care, even in your own customer room. If we've got a discussion where we want to go back and forth on a topic, things like that, and eventually mark a resolution, that sort of thing is done through forums. I use it myself within our own Igloo ITI as ticketing. Addie got me on this call by filing a ticket that I then will go back and forth with Addie on about dates, content, things like that. And eventually I'm going to deliver the course and I'm going to mark the ticket as concluded, that sort of thing. So the structure of it is pretty simple, but you have the idea where you can go ahead and you can make a post, and then eventually what you can get to is the idea of resolving that. So while I'm replying to my own post, what I can do is I can say resolving, I can post reply, and then you see the ability we can reply and have a further discussion go, or we can mark the item as concluded. And you can do this with a number of different things. So as an example, as a more fleshed out example, if we look at community discussions in customer care, these are all forums, and this is what a more robust display looks like. Do you use task lists for onboarding? Yep, we had a couple of comments that came in. We can see we've got 3 replies. We're now concluded. So these are really great for things like FAQ repositories, Q&A from your teams, that sort of thing. I see it used a lot with like open enrollment, that sort of thing. People ask questions about certain benefits packages, or we'll have some of those listed, because you can also search them. And you can sort them based on different parameters, as well as whether they're resolved, unresolved, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of power with forums. It's just a question of where and how you might use them. Make sense, folks?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. So the next one I wanted to ask about then, so documents and wikis, and the reason I put these two together, I know you're using documents and wikis. Documents, really the idea is creating file folders and uploading documents into those. So quite often these are things like PDFs, things we're not going to edit a whole lot, quite often used for policies and things like that. Do you use a lot of wikis, or those things that you reference a whole lot, or what are your thoughts on wikis in general?
So for our different departments, we have not many that use
Okay.
wikis. There are a few, but I would say that's one of those items that is not, I don't know, well adopted,
Okay.
if that makes sense. And I think it's also because I'm not exactly sure the best way of using them
Yep.
versus documents.
Okay. Yep. So I mean, wikis have a couple of really good advantages to them. So the first that wikis have that I really, really like is the idea of inline versioning. So basically with a wiki, I can go ahead and make edits to it, and I can save changes to that wiki, and it is recorded as a version of that wiki. So what's cool about that, of course, have we got one that might be populated here? I thought I found one earlier. IT objectives.
So our manager center right now is not in use.
Okay, all right.
So if we go to Kate, help me out. What group is Maria with?
Technical
Summers.
training. Technical
Okay.
training.
So training.
Yep.
At the bottom there.
Yeah.
And then areas of focus.
There we go.
And technical training.
Technical training. All right. Technical.
The yellow.
It's a page, not a wiki.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
There we go. General technical resources view. Perfect.
Maybe her other one. Oh,
Yeah.
that one. Yep.
There we go. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Perfect. So what wiki, I thought I found one earlier and unfortunately I just went to the wrong area. So, poor me. But yeah, basically
That's
when we're
okay.
looking at wikis, we have the ability, and again, it's got the full WYSIWYG editor. So this is where we're kind of creating our own documents. And it's more the idea that we want things that we can edit at some point in time. So again, it's not like policy documents are really things that we might edit on the annual sort of thing. We might edit, once a year sort of thing. These things are designed to be edited a little bit more in flight, and you can have your versioning. So whenever you're doing editing, it's going to create a versioned copy. You can reference back to that version copy when you're editing, that sort of thing. The other thing they're designed to be is what we saw in the previous page, which is you can present them, and this is a channel view, but you can use widgets to present these in a number of different visual experiences, pardon me. So wiki index widgets can be presented in a number of different ways, and you can get a whole bunch of different wiki titles up and ready to go. And then the other thing you can do is you can use the wiki article widget to surface certain articles, which is something we really can't do very well with documents. We can't just place a document on a page someplace, and in a lot of cases, people will resort to HTML and things like that, which makes things a little harder to find. With wikis, we get into the idea that we can use what's called a wiki article widget, and if, for example, I had this how to use NFPA access article here, and I wanted to surface that in 4 different areas in my digital workplace, I can do it from one source using a wiki articles widget. So what I can actually do is set up the wiki articles widget in 4 different areas, point it to this article, and then if I ever need to change the article in all 4 areas, I simply come here, make the changes to the wiki article, and it makes it throughout the site. So it's a really neat way to present content that allows it to be editable, referenceable. You've got your version history and all that fun stuff, and it's just a little bit more interactive as far as things go. And what a lot of
I
folks
have a
will do.
question.
Yeah, go ahead, Brenda. I'm sorry.
So I think what confuses me is the difference between a blog and a wiki, because I feel like they basically are the same, but maybe just being displayed differently. Or can you explain what the difference is?
Sure, yeah. Blogs are designed to be presented in more of a feed, so they're more like kind of a
Okay.
news progression, that sort of thing, whereas wikis are designed to be a knowledge base that's just a little bit more editable and easily referenceable as far
Okay.
as things go.
But like when you're actually building a wiki and a blog article, they look the same.
They
pretty
can
much,
look
don't they?
exactly the same, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually had a conversation this morning with a customer that wanted to present images. And she said, hey, you know what? I want to put an image in my site and I want to put it on 8 more pages and have that image update. I can do that with HTML on a template, right? I said, no, you can't. You can do it with a wiki article widget, and it's the exact same editor. And I think that's what a lot of people have a hard time getting around is the idea exact same editor. It's just the ability to present the
So
information in a different way.
if we are creating it in one place, but displaying it in a whole bunch of other places,
Mm-hmm.
how does that, like, where is the central storage? Is that whatever initial page you choose to create create the wiki on, and then you can link to it?
It's
From,
what close. It's
okay.
whatever channel that you've created the wiki in. So supposing this was the document that I'm presenting in 8 different places, it's within this wiki that I'm making the edit, and I'm just using the wiki article widget to point to this article. That's the way it works. So I'm doing my edit here, and when I make the edit here, it automatically changes all the other wiki article widgets with the updated version of the article.
As long as they're all set to
So
the same channel.
Correct.
What if you
Exactly.
had wikis from like different channels? They all have to be on the same channel?
Nope, they don't have to be on the same channel. Nope, you
Okay.
can do it within any channel. It's just a question of where that source wiki is being housed. And with every wiki article widget, there's always a thing when the article is being presented. Right at the bottom, it says View Article. If you click on that, it'll take you to the source material anyway. So you don't have to worry about getting lost and trying to edit it in the wrong place. I can show you an example if you like,
Sure.
if that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
So yeah, back to my site here and training area. And this is going to be a little bit of a glib example, but I did it for a video. So here we go. There's my puffin. Okay, and my little my puffin of the month, and my text here and everything like that. He's presented in a couple of different places, and I want to say one of them is, yep, there he is again. So context on training, picture of a puffin of the month. He's presented here. And he's presented one other place, and I'm not going to try and remember it. I'm just going to say, trust me, he's in 3 areas in the site. If I go to edit article, where I'm going is actually to the source article. And now if I make a change here, and I'm just going to say make a change, make a chance, that works even better. I won't change the photo just for fun. But if I go ahead and save changes now, we can see that it's edited here. And if I go to my home page, we can see it's also edited here. So all I'm doing is going to that source article, making that change, and it will change in as many areas as I have that article surface. So I see that being used a lot for things like this with photos. I see it being used a lot for things with materials that are referenced by different departments. Maybe I've got a policy that I want to share with multiple departments, but not all, and I use the wiki article widget to make that content available in that fashion.
So what is kind of a best practice there? Do people tend to keep like a hidden page or like a hidden wiki page where they're putting all their source articles and then like linking back to it? Or do you just kind of create? I'm still, so it's like a wiki isn't necessarily something you put on a page,
Nope.
right? Because okay.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And what you said first off, do people quite often create like a wiki for source articles? The answer is yes. Quite frequently they do. We'll have a wiki and it's just like, these are my source articles, regardless of disposition. This is the wiki that I'm keeping my source material in for wiki articles that I'm editing elsewhere in the site. Other folks, depending on how their organizational brain works, they'll do it just simply within the wiki that bears the purpose that they need it to. So for example, if it's a fire safety policy and I want to share it to 8 different departments, it's going to reside in my fire safety wiki. So it's really more of an administrative decision. But the understanding is always that if I click on that article, I'm going to go back to the source material anyway, so I'm never going to get lost. It's more just an administrative decision where you decide to keep that information.
Can you go back to this? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, go back to
go
okay.
ahead.
Oh,
just
someone go.
Quick question about the structure of the site. So if you go to the site map or site page,
Site manager, yep.
Site manager.
Yep.
And you know how there's like pages and knowledge bases. There, like if you open up the knowledge base again, and go to training.
Yep.
And go to areas of focus.
Yep.
Where we just were. So I guess this is what confuses me. So those are wikis in blue, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So yeah, I was just gonna say, if you go out to one of our pages, they're separated. So each knowledge base has its own like documents, and then we call them resources, which is the wikis.
Okay.
So here.
Yep.
Where this one's flip-flopped, but
this one's a wiki index. Yep.
Yeah, so this is the wikis, but then if you go to the training files, this is our permission-based. Oh, yeah, the permission-based for our different subsidiaries. There's different permissions for each. So these are like the documents, the Word documents. So they are separate.
Yep.
And for me, that's confusing. I wish I could just add a wiki within the files all in one. But we'll go back to Brenda's what Brenda was saying. I just wanted to show her the format of how each department has. This is how the template was created for us to use wikis versus Word documents or PowerPoints or videos or whatever. Yeah,
I find generally the best practice between files and wikis is that files are not things that you're going to edit frequently. You're not going to want to edit. So even when you said Word documents, my heart immediately went to, hey, let's make these wikis because they all are something that we can put in. They're much more readily editable. In other words, if I want to edit the Word document, I don't have to download a copy of it from the digital workplace, make my changes, re-upload it to the digital workplace. I can make all my changes within the digital workplace. Most commonly files, I see them being used for things like PDFs, video files, obviously pictures, things that I'm not going to be editing frequently, or I don't want that same editorial capability extended to. That sort of thing. Wikis are designed to be more readily editable and to present the information in a more, dare I say, interactive way, just simply because I can use that wiki index, or pardon me, wiki article widget to put the entire article on a page where I can't as easily do that with a file.
Okay. And see the way that it was, I have a fly in the house, sorry. So
Okay.
one off there. So the way that it was presented to us for the wikis was, these are like your how-to documents. Like how do I apply for benefits? How do I XYZ?
Yep.
So initially that's how I was presenting it to our different knowledge bases, different departments. But I don't know. Maybe that wasn't the right approach.
And I'm not. The one thing I'm not here to do is critique your approach. I'm just here. I'm here to say kind of what those best practices are and kind of the best way that I see customers using them. If you've got Word documents and files and you're okay with that, because maybe your editing process is different. Maybe you're always editing in SharePoint and then just bringing a copy forward. There's nothing wrong with that. Just giving you kind of the best use cases that I've found over time and really explaining the difference between the two. We've spent the last few minutes on it. I quite often do with documents and wikis, and that's why I lump them together. There are two biggest knowledge base elements. It's just a question of how we're presenting the knowledge and how that resonates with the folks that are using it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else that you wanted to ask on those? Brenda, you look like you've got a question, so.
I mean, I'm still confused. I think what confuses me is the way it's referred to, because I think when you keep saying, oh, we have all these wikis, what confuses me is it's like the page structure is a wiki, but it's actually several different articles on the page.
Yes.
And I feel like it's like you guys, I've heard ever since we started working with Igloo, it's like it's actually the articles that people keep saying, oh, the wikis, the wikis, the wikis.
Gotcha.
But it's really the page structure is a wiki page. But all the different articles on there are actually articles, right? Like add article, add article. You're not adding a wiki, you're adding an article, but it's on a wiki page. So I think that's where the confusion is in my brain.
Gotcha. So contextually, I was to say wiki channel, and then I was to say you add wiki articles to a wiki channel. That would relate better.
I think that helps me because otherwise, to me, it's an element on a page and not the page itself, if that makes sense. Like from a development standpoint.
Yep. No, I totally get where you're coming from on that. So I will try and do that moving forward. I think that's a good tip, actually.
I think now that it's clicking in my mind, I should be able to track. But
but no, I appreciate the tip. No, thank you for that. Okay. So the next thing I wanted, calendars. I noticed one thing on your homepage, and that is that you folks are presenting a company calendar like this. So my thought here was, was this presented just because it's a really great looking interface and it just kind of stays up there. We don't have to scroll through months. Was there a resistance to calendars, or is it just what were the thoughts around that as far as how calendars work?
Yes. So I'm super confused about calendars, but the one thing that I had gathered was we weren't able to link it to a shared calendar in our Outlook. And so that's where I mean I designed this in Excel. But I went down the path, and I think I might still have that calendar on the back end, but of the one that I was starting to create. But yeah, there was some type of disconnect where we couldn't sync it to a shared calendar,
Okay.
and that's what we wanted. So this is
Yeah, I get what you mean. Okay, yeah, definitely there is a little disconnect with shared calendars. We can basically create a shared calendar within the Igloo Digital Workplace that people can all create events and lump them into, but it doesn't work in the same way that it can
yeah
backlink to a shared calendar. So that's
yeah
totally,
that's
I get where
yeah
you've gone
that
with that. Okay.
yeah that and that's within different departments as well. Like we have an
Yeah.
IT shared calendar, we have a training for technicians like shared calendar, and yeah and so
So can
some have adopted, like training has adopted the calendar within Igloo.
Mm-hmm.
IT won't, because they want the sync. But
Yeah.
so
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, you have got some calendars being used. Did you have any questions about how they function beyond the obvious sync question? Is there anything that I mean, if I was
I
going to illustrate an ideal use of calendars, um, it would be all events would be this. So what I basically have is I've got calendars and I've got the idea of having different channels with different calendars being surfaced. So in this case, you can do it with tabs as well and have different calendars appear on a page. Better yet, let's do this. So this is Igloo customer care again. Go on, do the thing. So here's my idea for calendars. So what I've got is I've got a calendar with multiple channels on it, and then I've broken it into the individual calendars as well, that sort of thing. So it's designed to present information. The thing I like about calendars in my context is, for example, if we look at the Events Center, I've got the Igloo customer event coming up, which, by the way, everyone should attend. Shameless plug. It's here in customer care. You should sign up and attend these virtual sessions. They're great. But if I've created this, I have the ability to allow open invitations. And we can see here, I've got a whole bunch of people who have responded that they're attending to this. And I've got my calendar event created. Everything's ready to go. When they respond that they're attending, it creates an invite that it sends to them via email, and they can place that on their calendar, that sort of thing. So that's kind of where I really use calendars, but I understand what you're saying about the idea of a shared calendar, and maybe it's not necessarily the best thing in terms of your overall needs. Certainly, I get like the IT team in the overall corporate calendar. So I can see where that might be a little bit of an issue. But yeah, calendars
yeah
are really designed to capture the event within the digital workplace. We can email content into the digital workplace from calendars. I use it in an out of office context. Whenever I'm going to be out of office, I email our own digital workplace and create that event so it appears on our team calendar as well. But yeah, that's kind of what calendars are for as far as that goes. I guess we don't have to spend a ton more time on that unless we had any specific use cases or questions. Task-wise, are you folks using tasks? Are tasks a thing? No, not at all. Any reason to? Do we want to spend any time on them? Do we get the idea of
I
what they're
mean, if you
for?
could, yeah, I think just giving a quick overview of them would be good. I don't really understand what they do.
Sure.
yeah
So again, making sure I'm in your preview site. So tasks, really, we can do two kind of key things with them. The first I'll show you in here, and it's basically the idea of Carly's created a blog article, and with content, we can attach tasks to pretty much any content. So we see that down here. And what I can do is I can actually add a content, I can add a task. So I'll say follow up on this article, and I'm going to create a task. And then what I can do is I can go into the task, I can assign it to Carly. I'm going to pick on you, Carly, just the way
sounds
it's going to
good.
go. I can assign the task to Carly. I can create a due date. I can create a level of importance, all this fun stuff. And what's going to happen is that task is going to appear on Carly's to-do list, which is what we're going to find up here. There's going to be a thing for Carly where she's going to have a message, that sort of thing. So Carly is going to be able to go through, mark that task completed, that sort of thing. I also will see it on my to-dos as a task that's outstanding, and I'll see when Carly's marked it complete, that sort of thing. So that's one thing you can do. On a content basis, it's great to be able to, if you have, for example, policies that need to be reviewed, I can go through policies and I can say, Kate, please follow up on this policy. Brenda, this one's yours. Please follow up on this policy, review, edit, whatever you need to do. The other thing you can do, and I apologize for switching windows, but this one is great, is we can actually, and it's, pardon me, the onboarding center, we can actually create lists of tasks that we can assign to people. So we create a task template, and then we can assign these tasks to people. So we can see in this case, what I've done is I've replicated the idea of onboarding, and I've hired these 3 people. I've sent them each a list of tasks that I want them to do, and this is off a standard template. And basically what that will help them do is march through their onboarding process. So they're going to be able to mark these tasks as completed once they've done them, and I'm going to be able to see that that's done and that they're moving through their onboarding process as far as things go. So it's kind of a neat thing to do. We don't have to go over it in great detail, because one of the things I've done, and I can send you if you're interested, is I've actually got a follow-up video that I recorded for customer care showing this exact process. So if you were interested in that, certainly I can do that. But that's kind of the 2 things that we really use tasks for. And
So,
again,
quick
yeah, Kate,
quick
go ahead.
question.
Yeah.
In your first example, are you and Carly the only people that can see the task?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, last content element is going to be, sorry, I should know this. Oh, right. Talking about pages and spaces. So looking at the idea of pages and spaces, I think you probably know what both of them are for because you're using both of them. One architectural thing we have to keep in mind with spaces is you cannot create a space within a space. So if you are setting a space at any level architecturally, you're saying, by and large, that I cannot put a space underneath this. So if I wanted to put like a different news space within, I don't know, like a regional news or something, I cannot place a space within a space, that sort of thing. So that's the only thing to keep in mind. The key difference between pages and spaces is spaces have, if we look at your news space for a second, spaces have this little wheel over here, administration, that allow us to manage membership within the space, to make layout changes, navigational changes, to manage the archive and the trash can for the space. That's the difference. Pages don't have that same capability. So that's basically what we're looking at there. Both can be access controlled, but if you've got a focused area where you want people to work collaboratively, whether it's a project room, a team room, whatever the case may be, quite often in like DEI initiatives, I'll see where it's a space for like-minded individuals, that sort of thing. That's where we see spaces coming into context quite often. The other thing with spaces is administratively, you can set them up so people can request to join them. So again, going back to that DEI context, I can request to join special interest groups that serve my particular interests. And we also have that vetting capability as well, where I might be able to say, you know what, no, I'm sorry, this is a closed group. I don't want you to join that space, that sort of thing. So there's a little bit of voluntary membership that can go back and forth with that. So that's basically the difference between pages and spaces. They're both designed, of course, to present information. Spaces, of course, having the benefit of kind of having that sub-navigation where we can put multiple elements within there as well. So multiple pages within the space that are being used to surface content. Make sense? I see nodding heads, so I think we're probably pretty good. But
So
okay, cool.
So this news, I'm going to call it a page, but this is a space.
Yep.
Is that correct?
This is a space. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and we
Okay.
know that for 2 things. Number 1, we see the nav wheel, so we know this. And number 2, if we go to the site manager, it's always this green little space icon is basically what we're looking at. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So our knowledge bases
Our pages.
are
Because
pages.
you've got spaces underneath. So this is that key difference that I
that's
was
confusing.
mentioning. Yeah. So what we decided architecturally is you probably said, or someone who was setting this up said, hey, field risk management, human capital, these guys all need to work together. They need a focused area. We want to have member groups. We want to have all this cool stuff. And we want to consolidate this all under a single area where, knowledge bases where they're all kind of focused and it kind of works in a cascading order. And that's exactly what you've done. If we look at the page, all we've got on this page is links to the various spaces, that sort of thing. And as I said earlier, architecturally, I couldn't put these spaces within another space. So that's the decision that we make. If we want multiple spaces and to organize them logically, we typically put them under a page. And that way we're not hamstringing ourselves architecturally as far as things go.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. No, it's good. It's fine. But yeah, if you've got any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear them. Like, is there anything, Carly, that's still you're finding a little confusing or?
Not the items that we've gone over so far.
Think of this in a more federated digital workplace where I've got real like access control concerns, right? Maybe I don't want field risk seeing human capital, seeing information technology. Open access, anyone can see this splash page. Access kicks in here, basically, because I have those space membership groups, and I can say, you know what? I could have someone land on this page, and they can get to field risk and human capital, but IT's none of their business, and I can use spaces to hide that information. So, and I can have a group of people that are enabled to use that space based on their membership within the space. So if you think of it from an access capability, that kind of helps highlight things a little bit. That's not to say we can't permission pages. It's just access groups are really kind of one of the sole designs of what spaces are for. Okay?
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay. Hey, no problem. So then looking at access control just for a second, I wanted to jump in and just talk a little bit about, or really ask questions about membership. So we've got your membership here as far as sites go. You've been setting up members groups. We've established you're on SSO, so are you manually populating members, or are they coming in from your central system? So they're going in and out with like an update on a frequent basis. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So with that in mind, did you have any questions or concerns when it comes to managing members? Is there anything that comes to mind where you go, oh, wow, like I really wanted to talk about this. This is why we wanted an Igloo 101 course. Or is it kind of really handled for you as far as things go? No? Okay.
I don't have anything.
Okay. As I mentioned, the one thing you can do outside of your SSO is you can reset your password at any time. So this will just send an email to whoever the user happens to be. This is, again, resetting those Igloo credentials, not your SSO credentials, so you can log into the preview environment. Because, again, preview will not reference your SSO. Okay, that's thing one. You can change someone's email address. Now, typically, this is done through single sign-on, so I don't worry too much about it if you're doing that. But, the context, someone gets married and changes their last name, it should be changed in the parent system, so it can be changed here and would automatically update that. A lot of people will make the mistake of changing it here, and then the SSO poll will just change it back, that sort of thing. So just keep that in mind. And lastly, revoking a membership does remove the user from the system. So that's kind of an absolute thing you probably don't want to do as far as things go. Okay, I wanted to jump into the site manager and just kind of hang there for a minute. So questions with the site manager, like as you're working with it, is there anything where you kind of just jump out and you go, oh, hey, dang, I had this question, or this, I'm finding this confusing. Any thoughts with that? So the workflow is pretty solid then. We're adding something. Whoops, I'm in your preview site. Cool. I'm adding, for example, a page. I know, I like to make sure. I'm going to call it Brad's test page. I am going to locate it, so maybe I don't want it within that. I'm going to throw it, I don't know, I'll throw it within news just for fun because I can. And I will throw it there. UR identifier is going to be Brad test. I'm going to hide the page from navigation. We know what this means. It's not going to appear on a navigational bar as far as things go. What about templates? Looks like you're using templates a fair bit. We're familiar with these and we know what they're for?
Kinda.
Kinda? Okay. Nope, kinda's good. Kinda's good. So let's go add. So I've added my page and there it is. It appears within the site manager. Now, couple of things when I'm creating any element. One of the things I want to consider is setting up access, and I also want to consider editing the page. A lot of people, they go immediately towards the shiny green button. They go, I want to view it. Guess what? There's nothing on it, so who cares? So probably one of the first things we want to do is we want to set up access. So if we go here, if we haven't done anything, if we've placed it under something, it's typically getting what we call cascading access rules. So from the level above, I know marketing admin can see it, they've got full access to it, and all members have the capability to read this page. Okay, so that's basically straightforward. And that will, without any other interference, cascade down to this level. So what if I wanted to change that? Well, if I did, I would disable inheritance. That's going to break these rules at the upper level. And now on this page, I can add rules that are specific to this page and this page alone. So this is where I can go ahead and make those changes if I wanted to. Now, supposing I don't want, I've done that. We can go to the edit link in a second. But the other thing that I wanted to do real quickly is I want to go to this here. So if we drop this down, we can see a couple of things. So the first is going to be quick edit. If we click on this, we have the ability to change the name and the URL. That's all that's there for, quick edit. If we go to navigation, we literally have the ability to say show with any drop downs underneath, or hide it. Hide it just simply means it's not available in navigation. These two should be fairly self-explanatory. Yes?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Next one, we have full edit. We'll get to in a second. View means I want to look at it. Access means I want to set it up. And of course, delete means I want to delete it. You'll be asked, are you sure? You'll click the big red thing says, okay. It'll go and live in the trash for 30 days. Okay. At which point it will be deleted if you don't do anything else. Let's go to full edit. So if I go to full edit, this is where I can go ahead and I've got my name. I've got my location. I've got my URL. I can change any of this at any point. But the other thing I can do is I can set the page as a template. And if I do that, I'm using this as a blueprint for subsequent pages that I will create that will be based off of this page. So not necessarily exact copies, but quite often very, very close. So the template title, I will call not Bard, Brad's Awesome Template. Yeah, Brad can't type today or any other day for training, something along those lines. And then from this point, I can go ahead and I can build the page if I want to. So if I wanted to go ahead and, for example, grab a blog articles widget, I'm going to do my clicky draggy. Maybe I want to grab an HTML widget and I want to say what things are for here. And then I don't know, for fun, let's grab a call to action widget. We'll drag it down here and create a new row. Create a new row. Come on, sit. Oh, you're going to be like that, are you? There we go. Light up. There we go. Perfect. That sort of thing. So we can go ahead and set up all the widgets that we want. And then at this point, when we can save the page as a draft, we can go ahead and publish it. But if we do this now, number one, we've created Brad's test page, and you can see it appears in navigation. We haven't set up any of our widgets yet, but this is set. And from this point onward, if I create another page, I could use this template as a blueprint for that page. So what I would do is I'd go back into the site manager and I would add another page. And again, I always check. I don't know why, just get nervous. But now I've got Brad's awesome template and I can use that, create as a new page, Brad 2, The Reckoning. I'm not going to type The Reckoning. We're going to go ahead and use news again. URL identifier will be Brad 2, and we will click on add. And the page is actually created from that template. And if I view it, we can see we've already got the HTML widget. We've already got the blog widget. And if I go into edit mode, we'll see I also have the CTAs all set up and ready to go. So it's used to help you set structure. You can do the same thing with spaces. It's really the idea that it's going to be something that's repeatable. So the guideline here is don't set every page as a template unless you intend to use it again. Is basically what it comes down to. You can create one-offs of pages or spaces, but when you're creating these things, always make sure if you're creating templates that there is an intent at some point to use them again, because otherwise you're just creating architectural technical debt that you don't need to have as far as things go. Okay?
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to talk about really quickly with this, first off, does that bring any questions or comments to mind as far as the site manager goes? Okay.
No.
You're familiar with the idea of drag and drop. We like drag and drop, right? We know how to work that. Okay.
Yep.
So here's one thing that we do, and you folks were ahead at our Inspire tour a little while ago. So this is where it gets kind of fun. So if we're looking at a page, and I'm going to talk in a second about archiving and archiving as a best practice. So archives, we can archive any content element, calendars, blogs, wikis, whatever the case may be. We can archive these. What we can't archive is pages or spaces. Okay? We can't do that. And the reason for that is, well, just because we can't. We're not allowed. No, they don't have an archive capability attached to them. So what we're going to do is I'm going to create an archive, and I'm just going to call this archive, and I'm going to click on add, and it's just going to be a blank page. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the access, and at this point, what I'm going to say, because this lives at a top level, notice we didn't have any cascading rules. This lives at the top level on your tree. Okay, if you think of how this tree is set up, this is living at the top level. It's not inheriting permissions from anywhere. So what I'm doing is for access, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to break this. And I'm going to say all members have no access. I'm going to leave the Igloo webmaster as having access right now, because otherwise I'm going to break my own access. But the idea here is I'm depermissioning that page. So once I've depermissioned the page, I'll go back into the site manager, and I've got this archive sitting here. Now, supposing those two wonderful pages I created, those two Brad pages, I want to archive them. I want to keep them for later. I don't want to outright delete them. Now what I can do is I can drag and drop them down here. I'm going to say yes real quickly. Drag and drop, let her go, say yes. And now these are living here, and they are going to inherit permissions from my parent page, meaning they don't have any permissions attached to them either. This is a great way to get pages and spaces out of search results and out of the common view without creating too much labor for yourself, and also without deleting the element, which a lot of people will balk at because pages and spaces can contain, pardon me, a lot of information. Okay, so that's just kind of a best practice we use there. And of course, that demonstrates the idea of that wonderful drag and drop feature that we all know and love. Making sense?
Yeah, great.
Cool. Yeah, great. Excellent. I like yeah, greats. That makes me happy. Cool. Any couple other things with the sitemap. Have you guys used this, the sitemap structure?
Yeah.
Yeah. So great pulse check on your site. This shows you things like number of children and channels. It shows you the position of things, the depth overall of your site. Really helps you keep things clean architecturally. One of the things I like to do as a best practice is or rather, I don't like to do it as a best practice. I like to tell people to do it. Why are you taking so long? Right. Let's go here instead. We'll go export. There we go. Already there. We'll grab this. One of the things I like to do really quickly with this is I export it. I check filter on it. And this is usually every couple, 3 months. And what I'll do is filter, for example, to channels, and it could be all channels. It could be only a selection of channels. It's really whatever you want to do. Not member directory, microblogs. We'll say OK. So there's all my channels. And then really quickly what I'll do is I'll filter and see how many channels have 0 children. Okay. This is a really interesting thing because especially if you're using a lot of templates, specifically space templates, a lot of channels will quite often get created. And what happens is they don't get used. We don't have a use for them. Teams won't adopt them, whatever the case may be, and they'll just sit there stagnating. But what they will do is they'll show up in search, and they'll basically clutter our site architecturally. So I like to go through and just kind of do these filters, and then I like to find out where these are and whether or not I can delete them, whether or not I can action them, whether or not I can create champions for them and say, hey folks, let's start publishing content here, whether I can surface them more prominently. So this is a really great one to use in order just to get a sense of who's doing what within your digital workplace. Okay.
Cool.
We've also got reports that are available that get into our reporting structure, but that's a lesson for another day. Sitemap wise, any other questions as far as this goes?
Nope.
No? Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Anything I'm not answering for you folks? All right, let's jump into, I wanted to jump into a page for a second and, oops, haha, see, this is why I always check. I want to jump into your site for a second and let's jump into a page. And if I'm viewing this page, I'm going to jump into edit and just looking at the widget carousel here, I did mention that I was going to talk a little bit about widgets. Is there anything here where you've kind of looked at widgets and you've gone, geez, what the heck do we use that for? Or are there any use cases that you wanted to talk through as relates to widgets?
I think this is again where I still get a little confused with the whole wiki thing. It's just, but I think it's becoming more clear as I've been watching you click through here. Is so the wiki index widget that's looking at a wiki page essentially, right?
Yeah,
Like you would
a wiki
put that
channel.
widget in and then you would assign it to a wiki page and that would be the feed that's
Yep.
displayed. Yeah.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep. And then the wiki article is designed to show, actually, let's do that. Let's show a singular article real quick. So this is the wiki article widget right here. I'll take that and drop it right here. And within the wiki article index, the difference is what I'm doing is I'm looking for, we'll grab this wiki. It's got, cool thing is here, anything that lights up in blue has stuff in it. Anything that doesn't is not anything I can select. So basically we're looking at the idea like leader profiles, things like that. I can show the main article or I can show any other article that exists within that sort of thing. So it's going to show me only referenceable information. So that's basically what we're looking at there, but it's designed to show an article, whereas a wiki index, as you've already surmised, is designed to show an entire channel or channels. We can put multiple wikis in, but this is going to give you a list of all the various wikis you have and let you show the entire channel, or Brenda, as you were referring to it, the wiki page. That's
So
basically what we're doing.
That's how you were showing that same puffin on the multiple pages. You were using the wiki article widget?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. But beyond that, any questions with the widget carousels or anything that you've tried and gone, oh, geez, this isn't working for me, or any questions with page configuration in general? Like your pages look very well configured in your site, but I'm just curious, is there anything where you kind of go, wow, this is kind of stumping us, or whatever the case may be?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's stumping me, but
okay.
I'd like to know what I could use the integrations for. I've looked through it and I'm like, none of this really pertains to me, but like, can I get add-ons to it? Can I get something more like to our package that we have?
Yep. So the integrations widget, I'll just preface this by looking. Okay, so yeah, Box, Dropbox, Google Drive. Yeah, so if you're a Microsoft shop, quite often folks will use like the Microsoft-oriented stuff. One of the biggest ones is to bring in like a SharePoint document library, so you can surface that within your digital workplace. And we've got knowledge base articles for all of that. But the other thing, yeah, you've got partners and Igloo prod. So yeah, none of these. The big one, the big seller for the integration widget is the Gadget Depot. So you've probably heard that before.
I actually just stumbled across it today. I found an article on it and I was like, hey, we don't have these. We don't have this countdown. Which
so as you surmised, it is something
for benefits.
Yeah, it is something that you add to your package as far as things go. So there is a fee associated with it, and that's an ADDI territory. But for example, if I went to my engagement squad page, examples of the Gadget Depot are like countdown clock, the photo wall widget, which allows you to display photos in a much more pretty and kind of interactive way. Latest activity widget, which updates the user on things they're following, that sort of thing. All the way down at the bottom here, if we want to get fancy, we've got our panoramic photo viewer. These are all different gadgets that exist. We've also got the video wall, which is right here. So the video widget, this allows us to take videos that are present in our digital workplace, and it curates them in a much more pleasing and actually better as far as overall quality playback schema. So it's kind of a neat way to do things. But yeah, that is all done through the integration widget. Basically, you would get access to another library, and you would be able to point those widgets to that information.
So this is the gadget wall? Is that what you call it?
The Gadget Depot, yes.
Gadget Depot. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. There's a whole. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was just gonna ask, is that something that Igloo continues to add more gadgets to?
Yeah, it is something that we
just over time.
Yeah. It started off as 5 gadgets, and it's grown to I forget how many, but it's more than 10 now. So
okay.
Yeah.
So it will grow, or it can grow.
It definitely can grow. Yeah. Typically where we
Gotcha.
see the Gadget Depot growing is a lot of folks will get ideas from customers and we'll go, oh dang, we can't do that. But maybe we could put a developer on it and do it in another way. And that's exactly what we've done with a lot of the gadgets. So it'll be a popular use case, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Good to know.
You're okay. All right. So we talked about the sitemap report. I think one thing that I wanted to get to just real quickly, I know we're over time. Are you folks like super pressed or anything?
No.
Not terribly? Okay.
I'm not, no.
All right. So any other questions on page building, widget placement? Like if I was to point up here and say, hey, what about equal columns here? Would you know what that was all about? You'd know all that? Okay, cool. I love that. So one other thing I wanted to point to actually within your site manager for a second is, yeah, go away, is going to be preview site, cool. I make myself nervous. The styles page. We know about all these, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. So you've got a lot. Like you've got pretty much all of them, which I think is pretty cool. Plus like companies, which is kind of an interesting one I don't know about. And
yeah,
okay.
That was custom. That was custom for us.
Yeah. And then you've got your styles that you can apply here, and then you've got other styles or enhancements that you apply by cracking open your header and putting a little code up there. Does that sound like a familiar operation?
Yes. Not the header, not for me.
Okay.
No, but that's
yeah, so we have an enhancement. Like for example, I just dropped a video on Igloo Customer Care today about the detailed members widget enhancement. So it's a little enhancement. It's entirely code based. You won't get a styles page for it, but the idea is I can do things like throw in someone's email address into every instance of a members widget. So I don't just see Addie, I see A Batson at igloosoftware.com, that sort of thing. And it's a clickable link. It's all done through code, and what you're doing is you're taking the code that we provide you and you're going to put it into your site header. And basically, you can go to appearance, and then all I do is I swap this out and I type the word header, and this is where we have a whole bunch of different code for enhancements. Like it looks like you've got some group-based stuff that's going on. It looks like we've got some dynamic backgrounds for banners and things like that. So the header is something that we can work with as far as putting some coding in here. My advice here is unless you're an HTML and JavaScript programmer, don't chuck anything in here. Definitely get it from us so you know you're getting the right stuff as far as things go. It will take other code, but quite often unpicking that code can be a bit of a task for our support team. And technically we're not supposed to, because if you wrote it, technically you should be maintaining it. It's not stuff that we designed. Okay, but this is where, if we were, for example, going to use that detailed members widget enhancement, you would be provided with some code that you would place in your site header, that sort of thing. Okay, one thing, so I think we're okay on the site manager as far as things go. One thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of just bigging up search a little bit, making it a little better for you, is going to be archiving. So currently, what I noticed for your content is that you're not doing any sort of archiving on a global level. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but I guess the question I wanted to explore with you folks is it's quite often, well, it's not just quite often, it's always a good best practice to be archiving content. So I think I saw that you were archiving content in another display. How are you typically doing that? Are you doing it at the channel level? Are you doing it manually? How does that work out as far as things go?
I don't think we're doing any archiving.
You're doing a little bit because you do have some archive content in a report I was looking at, but
it's not us.
it's not you.
department, but
it sounds like manual. Yeah.
Yeah, it's somebody that has really adopted Igloo and is using it,
Yeah.
you know, perfectly.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about perfectly, but we'll go there. Sure.
Close.
So yeah, basically, archiving is designed to take content that meets certain criteria out of the frame, and it's not deleting it. It's just taking it out of my first round of search. So basically, what happens is it's leaving it in the digital workplace. I can find it if I really want to by including archive content, but it's also removed from my initial search results. So it keeps your search results from getting too cluttered and points people towards the most recent information that's likely the stuff they're looking for in the first place. So we have a queue, and this is what happens when stuff is scheduled to be archived. It'll bounce into the queue, and we can restore it from the queue at any point. Within the archive itself, we've got some stuff that has been archived. So we've got registration open now for a new inspection. We've got fire alarm and security apprenticeship, that sort of stuff. And if I wanted to restore this, I could go ahead and do that. Now, again, it doesn't mean it's gone, just means it's got a little label on it that indicates that it's archived and no one is able to edit it unless they first take it out of archive, that sort of thing. But where this is a manual process, we can actually make it an automatic process. So if I'm looking at blog articles as an example, they're a great one to use. Articles and calendar events are great. Blog articles, I can set parameters, and this is what we call a global rule. This will apply to every blog channel in your digital workplace. So say I want to do this, and let's look at the parameters. I've got days, week, months. So maybe I want to do it if it's been a month since the last time anybody commented on it or the last published date. I'm going to go ahead and set this as a rule. And again, no worries, preview site. So I'm going to say save. So I'm going to say save. There we go. Yeah, perfect. So now all your blog articles will be archived, and archiving happens in the evening, we'll call it. It happens overnight, basically. But basically, it's going to look for anything that meets that criteria. It's been a month since it was published, and it's going to put it into the archive queue, and then eventually it's going to move it into the archive. And what that does is, again, removes it from search, and it puts a little note on it that basically says this archive item is archived and can no longer be edited. That's basically what we're looking at here. It's really designed to help clean up your search. So
Is
before
it
So
retroactive? Like if we did that, would it go back?
Oh, heck yes, it is. I had
Oh,
a customer I did this for last year, and they had like 200,000 items that needed archiving, and we had to
yeah.
do it in stages because, yeah, it is retroactive and it'll go back and do the whole thing for you.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
so when you archive a blog article, let's
Uh-huh.
just use that as an example.
Yep.
It still is showing on the page, correct?
It will still show on the page. Now an adjustment to that with this release that just came out yesterday. Um, so we now have the ability within blog article widgets to opt to remove archive content. For a lot of people, it was a little bit persnickety. They looked at it and they went, why am I still showing archive content in my blog feed? Now we can actually remove it from blog article widgets, and you can only find it if you went to the feed itself. So for some people, it's a little bit more instructive. What I always have said back to customers when they say, hey, you know what, there's archive content in my blog feed, I say, why aren't you publishing more? Because if I'm going back far enough to find archive content in a widget, that means you're not publishing very often because the max you can show in a widget is not very many articles. So really, if your blog widget's getting cluttered up with archive content, you're not publishing very often, and you probably should be publishing more, is what it comes down to. But bottom line, yes, it's still there. It's just not natively going to show up in search. That's basically what we're looking at.
Okay, so
Okay.
the benefit is strictly that it won't show up in search.
It'll clean up search,
Well,
and
clean it up, yeah.
it'll also indicate on a label. It's still there for reference, but it'll indicate that this is archived. So it might indicate to someone who
Okay.
finds it inadvertently or finds it within an article that, hey, this maybe isn't the piece of information I want to be looking at. It's been archived. Maybe I want to look for something else, that sort of thing. Okay. So we can add global rules, and that's great. So as I said, this now says all blog articles in my digital workplace, if it's been a month since the last comment, all of these are going to be now archived. And as we mentioned, it is retroactive. So that's a global rule, but what if I don't want it to be a global rule? So what if I want to have exceptions to that sort of thing? What I can do is you can actually do archiving at the channel level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into your featured news channel. So just going to click on that. And now I'm on the channel page, and a couple of things we can see. So there's some archiving. There's some archiving that's been happening. I'm going to go up into here, and I am going to look at a couple of things for channels. So I can edit a channel. All I'm doing there is editing the name and description of a channel. I can opt to delete a channel, which of course I want to be really, really sure about doing because it's going to delete the channel and all its content. It will give you a one-time message, and you can always go to the trash and get it if you did it in an accident. But under advanced, this is where I have the ability to set up things like search engine optimization. I can insert JavaScript code, that sort of stuff. I don't find people play with that a lot. Access to the channel, activity on the channel, manage the channel is where we can actually go in and look at our drafts, our published and unpublished content, that sort of thing. And then finally, if we get to, we have our subscriptions, who's subscribed to the channel. So this is where we can let users know about newly published content. We've got our channel template. This is where we can actually preset content. If we want people to be presented with a template from which to start writing, we can actually set a template that'll be created when they hit add new article. And then lastly, we've got settings. And under settings, this is where we can go ahead and set up channel-specific archiving. So we've got our community set retention policy, and it states what that is here. But if I want to do an exception to the rule, and I want to say do not archive items in this channel, never want to archive my featured news, I can go ahead and click on save, and that's saved, that's done. And now if I go back to my archive, what I'm going to see is something that looks like this, which is all blog articles will be archived 1 month since the last comment, except now there's an exception, and it's going to tell me what that is. Featured news channel, do not archive. So you can play with your archiving a little bit, and instead of doing it on a singular level for articles, as some of your users are doing, you can actually do it on a channel level for certain streams, or you can do it globally with exceptions to that global rule. So it's a great way to just kind of automate a process that maybe a lot of your folks are doing manually. And it's a great best practice to get into, especially if your users are indicating any sort of frustrations with search. Cool. All right, I've said a lot of things, and I know the course, it has been a lot, but I did want to, offer some time for Q&A. I know we're over time already, and that typically happens when we get a lot of back and forth, but it's been good back and forth. So I wanted to, is there anything I didn't cover today that you'd like to see covered? I've got like 15 more minutes before my next thing, so fire away if you've got any questions.
I am blank, so I don't know if Carly's got questions over there. That was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. I'm not good with on the spot. Can you go back to our site manager
Yeah, sure can.
page?
Mm-hmm.
And then if we look at our templates, do not delete
Yep.
templates that were created for us.
Yep.
So, gosh, I was going to ask a question about this. And I'm drawing a blank. I have the permissions all set up. I don't know if that's a a good thing to do or not.
Okay.
But gosh, I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank on
That's
what
okay.
I was going to say.
It's okay.
But this is what I use when we have, so obviously we're doing a phase approach. Not all of our departments are in our knowledge bases even today. We'll eventually get more. But this is, I use this template for the knowledge base for when I create like a new knowledge base essentially. But
Yep.
it feels chunky. I don't know
Okay.
how else to describe it.
Okay. So let's walk through it. Let's walk through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that.
So let's create a space. Okay. And this is what you do.
And then Brenda can see how this works as well.
Okay. Here's a list of your templates. You want to use knowledge base, right?
So, but that's not the template one. It's very messy in here.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like you have to
Template
type in
knowledge
template.
base.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we want to use this.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll give it a title.
I'm
just going to call it new KB.
Sounds good.
Okay. We'll place it under home just so we can find it again.
Okay.
Or pardon me, under Summit Companies, not under home. URL is going to be new KB. And I don't care about navigation. We're just going to go ahead and create it. Okay. Yep. There it is. Okay. So where would you like me to go now?
Let's view the page.
Let's view the page. Okay.
So I've created, I've added a few things to this, but this is essentially what a new department gets, and they fill in their information.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still more designing that has to happen, at least on my side.
Okay.
I probably do a little too much, and maybe I need to teach a little bit better. But if we go underneath the areas of focus, if we just hover over that, then I also have to like add in their topics.
Okay.
And so I do that on the back end of it. So if okay, so just go to topic A.
Sure.
And then even within this page, I have to like tie in, like the topic file and the topic resources. I have to go in and name
Change
that
those.
topic.
Yeah.
If it's Brad's knowledge base.
Yeah.
I have to change the name of the page, but then also these I'm not good with the terminology, but the widgets. So I have to go in here and change that too.
Yep.
And then also with like the wikis, and the easiest way that I've found is just going in the back end and changing the wikis.
Yeah. So going in through navigation, right? Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. I'm with you.
And then if you could do, the area. So so this is where I go in and I add things. So even though it says Summit Companies Resources, or no, it would be underneath the topic A. Let's go under topic A. And then there's all those wikis and then the files. So wherever it says topic A, I have to name,
right.
Like
change the name
claims
of it. Yeah.
Or whatever division that is. It's a lot of manual, but I know that it's going to be. I guess I don't know where I'm going with this user case. I guess I'm just kind of talking out what I do.
Can I take a stab?
Please.
Okay. So I think one thing that if you find yourself doing this a bit with templates, one of the things that you can keep in mind with spaces is you can name space administrators. They only have the rights to this space, and they can do all the things within the space that you're currently doing. So one of the things that I think would be really helpful for you if you're using templates is to, I don't know whether you've got a video tool of choice that you can use to capture video, but actually shoot a video showing what it is you do. Give the person administrative access to the newly created space and give them this video and let them do that work for you, with you kind of over their shoulder as a little bit of a fact checker, help with anything that maybe they got confused on, that sort of thing. But I think what you're feeling is, because you're one thing I'll say is you're doing all this right, You're doing it all right. It's just you're finding there's a lot of work to do on the back end. You've got to change names, you've got to point resources to different things, that sort of thing. And if you can shoot a video that says, hey, when I give you a space template, here are the things you're going to have to do. You're going to have to change the CTAs on the page. You're going to have to change the links so they're yours. You're going to have to point the resources to the right place. And you hand them that plus this video, you will be in you'll start to find that people will be able to self-serve, and that will also empower them to be able to manage their own spaces as well. So if I give somebody the keys to the fire protection space and I say, look, manage your members, manage your content, all that fun stuff, they have the ability to do that. And you're just there as basically the overseer of the digital workplace. Yeah, they come to you with questions, but at the same time, you've got the capability to provide them an instructional video and say, hey, go forth and serve yourself, that sort of thing. So I mean that's kind of what I think you're saying to me, because I will say that you're doing this well, like you're using spaces well and using templates well. It's just that you're not you're feeling the pinch on the back end with a lot of the administrative kind of work that's necessary. So that's where you could really empower space owners to make this a little bit of an easier process for you. I mean, the other alternative is that what you do, and don't get me wrong, this is not me saying you should do this. This is just the alternative. The alternative would be that if I went to areas of focus, I would just have a blank page where I've got a files widget and a topic resources widget, and I haven't pointed nothing to nobody. And then you go in and we don't have to unpoint these and repoint other things. We're just simply, these are two blank widgets, go find the source for them and knock them in. And it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I'm more in favor of empowering people who can support me with the digital workplace than I am of managing the entire thing for them. But certainly that I think that's where you're feeling the pinch, if I had to guess.
Yeah. And if you go underneath our site manager again, I want to see if our supply chain is there.
Supply chain.
Underneath knowledge bases.
Yep. Supply chain management.
Supply chain.
Go there.
Yep, please.
Yep, sure.
So this is a new knowledge base that is starting to build out their pages. And so within this, if they come back at me and say, hey, I need an additional page, I then obviously ask them to, what type of page they need, and if they need like this areas of focus, like tied to it, that sort of thing. Because then that see, now I'm gonna struggle. That's I guess I struggle on figuring out, do I create it as a template, or do I just create it as just a new page and drag it to supply chain?
So what I do, sorry to cut you off. What I do in that case is I would do under navigation, I would create it strictly here. If it's a one-off that's not going to be part of the template in the future, I would just create it strictly here. You've got kind of your full sitemap access here, but you're only affecting the page, or pardon me, you're only affecting the space in this case. So this is where I would do it, because that way you don't have to create the page and drag it to the space. You're creating it physically within the space without having to leave the space that you're concerned about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
same with like if they wanted additional channels, like if they wanted a microblog channel here, we just create a microblog channel. It's only going to live within this space, that sort of thing.
Right. So if I was to create a new page here, and initially they say, hey, I just need a page. I just want to put widgets on the page, whatever. Cool. So that's what that is. But then what if they come back to me and say, okay, well, we kind of went back to the drawing boards and I need to add documents. Well, we have that structured in place where I don't have to create that folder structure and the permissions. Is there an easy way on that page that's already created? Is there an easy way of adding in that template of that folder structure that was created for us? Does
You
that make
lost
sense?
yeah, you lost me on that one. I'm sorry.
Um,
So
okay,
show
so
me again where you're concerned. So are we talking about like the areas of focus again? Is that what we're thinking of? Or what were you
so
thinking
if it
of?
so yeah, so if it was a new page that we
Okay,
had
let's create a new
created,
page real quick. Let's do that. Okay.
okay,
So new page, Brad again. Supply chain management URL identifier is Brad again. We're going to say add. Cool. What do we want to do now? Go to view the page.
sure.
It's got nothing on it. Add content. They
Yep,
want files.
yep,
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to
okay,
grab folder contents.
yep.
Yep. And then I'm going to go edit and did you want me to grab anything in particular or what are you thinking?
Uh, that would be my question to you. So
Okay.
we have a folder structure that's tied to those knowledge-based pages.
Mm-hmm.
And it's already designed for us. So like for instance, the folders are general company documents, summit company
Like this?
documents. Yep, that's one.
Mm-hmm.
But that looks like it might be
It's under
under
area. It's under areas of
field
focus again.
risk.
Yeah.
Yep. So
So
each
this is going to start breaking things down a little bit. So one of the things I see here is like we have kind of the naming convention, right? Okay, which is general company documents. So you definitely have to be careful about which one you're picking, but continue.
Yeah, so I think this already answers my question that
Okay.
a page like this that isn't one of our templates,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not able to add in the folder structure that was pre-made for us.
Okay, let's look at that general company documents because I'm not sure. Where would I find that source material, if you will? Where would I find the general company documents? Like
Underneath
the
the site
template you're talking
manager.
about. Okay, yep.
Yeah, site
Okay,
manager
yep.
and under the templates.
Templates again, sorry, yep.
Yep. And then knowledge bases.
Knowledge
It
bases,
areas of focus.
areas of focus,
Topic A
topic A.
in all of these.
Oh,
And then
right.
like and then also underneath the topic A files. So it's the files. So if you open up the file one to
Mm-hmm.
view, okay, so view that. This. So these are already permission based. They're tied to every like top level of knowledge base page.
Mm-hmm.
But but my question is I don't know how to phrase this. Is the only way to get this file structure on a page is the do I have to use the template knowledge base page? Does that make sense?
If you want just this file structure,
Yes.
if you want just this file structure, this is where you can use that folder widget to reference this file structure, and it'll bring this whole thing in for you because it's going to display this same channel. So what I was showing you before, where I dropped a
Okay.
folder widget on the page, if I'd pointed it to this as my source material, it would pull in this exact feed, and it would look exactly like this.
However, we have this file structure, file folder, whatever you want to call it, structure for every knowledge base. So it's not like we have one for the entire company.
Oh, okay. So you mean this in itself is templated?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's, I think that might be what you're saying. So if I look at topic A, you want to bring this across and basically have this same setup and you want, okay.
It,
Am I understanding that? All right.
yes. So yeah, I mean, our structure is very complex, as you can see, and I think you already knew that from the Igloo conference. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm wasting people's time. So
You're not. You're not. I think you know what. Let's maybe you and I can jump on a call and talk it through a little more when we've maybe had a chance to really map out what the use case is, and then we can
Yeah.
get to the bottom of it. Because I think I
Okay.
know what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm giving you the answer, and it doesn't seem to be quite fitting. So why don't you and I put like maybe a quick 30 minutes together sometime in the near future, and we'll get it figured out.
Okay.
Does
Okay.
that sound
All
good?
right.
Because
Yeah.
I'd love to help
Yep.
you with it.
That's
I'm not
perfect.
sure I'm understanding the question properly. So let's do that.
Yes. Okay.
Okay,
That sounds
great.
good. And it's hard
Okay.
when I'm not being able to navigate too. So
Well, and you're also under the recording thing here, and I'm asking you to think up questions that kind of end
well,
a day on a Thursday. So
we're gonna edit that out. I already
yeah.
told Kate, I was like, I'm not gonna ask any questions because I don't want other people to see me flounder. And here I am.
Honestly, no. We went longer than expected, but honestly, I always expect to go long when it's kind of like an Igloo 101 session. I really should learn and just schedule them for 90 minutes because there's a lot to cover. By no means is this our last contact, so we still have a site review that I've done for you folks, and I want to go over in detail for that. And through Addy, I want to help you folks however I can. So if you want to hook up and do like a 30-minute to talk about this, if there's other concepts you want to explore, if this video brings other questions or whatnot to light, I want to help you folks succeed. So that's what I'm here to do. So I've
Wonderful.
enjoyed the session today. Thank you very much for the questions, and certainly. I will look forward to talking to you folks in the near future. Carly, I don't know if you've got my calendar or not, but I can really quickly fire you an email with a booking link, and we'll get this put to rights. Sound good?
Wonderful. Thank
Thank
you.
Okay.
you. We appreciate the time.
My
Thanks.
pleasure. Have a great rest of the day and a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
you.
Same to you.
See you folks.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.